And things just keep taking a turn for the worse. We knew that GPU supply for very popular RTX 50 series GPUs was going to get bad, but now it looks like an AIB has just outright confirmed that the 5070 Ti and the 5060 Ti from NVIDIA are going to be discontinued. And this is pretty crazy stuff because these cards are just hitting that 1 year mark and they're now considered discontinued, which has never happened before. So if you were in the if you were looking for a new graphics card and you were in the market, might be a good time to go out and start hunting for some cards. Let's get into it. Hey, what is going on, guys? Danny here. Welcome back to the channel, and I hope you're all doing well. So, just recently, Tim from Hardware Unboxed put out a video claiming that they spoke to a bunch of add-in board partners who work with NVIDIA, and they found out that the RTX 5070 Ti and the RTX 5060 Ti are no longer going to be in production. So, they were at CES, which happened last week, and once they pretty much found out, and a lot of us found out that the Super Series was canceled, they figured they might be doing a roundup of 5070 Ti's. And when they reached out to a whole bunch of add-in board partners asking for samples, it's not that, they weren't willing to participate. It's just that they were flat out refused because they said they just couldn't supply them with samples, which is pretty wild in its own because, this is a channel that has millions of subscribers, and you would think that some of those partners would be able to pull some strings to get them a sample, so that way they could put out the video for them. It's exposure for them on their part, right? But yeah, they couldn't secure a sample, and then ASUS was actually willing to go one step further and tell them straight up that the 5070 Ti is no longer going to be produced, and the same can be said for the 5060 Ti. So I was on Newegg.com, and I wanted to take a look at what the current status was for stock, because it's actually been a while since I looked at what the situation in the market is like. So this would be more pertaining to North America. And I was on Newegg.com, filtered out for 5070 Ti's, and yeah, the situation's looking pretty dire. As you guys can see, there's only a few select models in stock from AIBs, and usually there would be a wide variety of stock available from many different AIBs. Like right now, I can see there's two MSI models, a Gigabyte, another MSI model, Zotac, and PNY. So there's nothing from ASUS. What are some other AIBs that are out there, right? It looks like the supply is just limited because Gigabyte has plenty of different 5070 Ti models. MSI has a few other ones here that are not listed. ASUS has their Tough and their Strix, Astral. Along with the Prime, Zotac, they have a whole bunch. So, yeah, it's looking like it's pretty limited. And not only that, but, during Black Friday or before the whole DRAM crisis mess started happening, prices were starting to get really good on GPUs. That was one of the things I pointed out in one of the initial videos I made when covering the whole RAM topic. Was that GPUs, especially for a lot of the 50 series models like the 5070 Ti, they were starting to come down in MSRP or to MSRP or even below that, like for $720. I had even seen a few models drop for a very short moment, drop down to a little over $700, like $710. But now it looks like because of that shortage, prices are going up, and the cheapest model that we have here, or two of them, are going for $830, which is $80 above MSRP, which really sucks. And then when we take a look at the 5060 Ti, because that was the other model that was mentioned, the 16 gigabyte model in particular, it looks like the situation isn't as bad. You can still find some models, that are still going for around MSRP. I got to filter this out actually by 16 gigabytes. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so now that we do that, it starts to look, just as bad as the 5070 Ti situation. So, yeah, one model that appears to be close to MSRP, but the rest are all priced well above that, which is crazy. And it makes sense because, like I said, with this whole shortage and situation going on with the DRAM crisis, these high capacity models are pretty highly sought after because, people want to make sure that they can adequately enjoy higher settings and higher visual fidelity in their games without having to worry about VRAM limits, even at lower resolutions for these newer games that are coming out, AAA games. So the 16 gigabyte models are a lot more attractive in that sense. So this whole situation just sucks either way you look at it. I particularly thought that the 5070 Ti out of the entire 50 series stack was probably the best value card you could get your hands on, even though the whole entire stack as like a whole wasn't particularly perceived that well value wise compared to previous generations. But I mean, on its own, the 5070 Ti I think was still pretty decent. I did do a review of that card and compared it to some of the other cards that I had in my inventory, and even compared it to the 9070 XT. But just ignoring the 9070 XT because we'll get to AMD later on. When looking at the 5070 Ti, it pretty much offered you like what 95, like 85, 90% of the performance that a 5080 does. And when comparing MSRP to MSRP, it's $250 difference. So value per dollar, the 5070 Ti was just offering a lot more better bang for your buck. And, if the target for you was just 5080 levels of performance, my recommendation was to people to just get a 5070 Ti. It has good overclocking headroom, so just overclock it, and you can essentially get stock 5080 level performance. And the card also undervolted really, really well too. It ran very, very efficiently, very cool. The MSI Gaming Trio model that I particularly reviewed could undervolt really well, and I would be able to keep that its power consumption below 200 watts for the vast majority of the time, at least for the games that I was playing, and it would run super cool, less than 50 degrees. So I mean, really phenomenal card. I also did take a look at the 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte, and the reason why I was prompted on taking a look at that card was because when comparing it to some older high-end cards like the 3080, it could compete pretty well against those cards. So the way I positioned that video and the topic of discussion for that was, if you weren't so keen on getting a higher-end used card like a 3080 or something like that, or 2080 Ti, the 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte also was a pretty viable option. So, I mean, these were pretty decent cards. It is really disappointing to see that, AIBs are basically stating that they're going to be end of production, end of life. And like I was saying, this has never happened before because we've been in, pretty tight situations in regards to the GPU market before, like with the whole mining boom during the pandemic, during 2017. And, AIBs and manufacturers, they would still continue to produce cards, albeit, they wouldn't be in stock readily available. But no one had ever come out and just said, yeah, like, this particular card is just end of life. Like I was saying, these cards have just hit that 1 year mark. And to see AIBs come out and say that, yeah, you know what, we can't get them in stock or we're not producing them any longer. It's wild. And it just shows you just how bad the situation has become and how much worse it can possibly get. And so if you are after a 16 gigabyte model among the 50 series, the only option that you have now is the RTX 5080. And I was taking a look at the RTX 5080 as well because I wanted to see what the situation with that card was like. And yeah, things are looking pretty bad too, because you guys can see that there's a few cards in stock here, but they're all well above MSRP. Remember, it's $999 MSRP for the 5080, and for a while there were a number of cards, a number of models that were dropping to MSRP or just slightly above or even slightly under. But now what you guys can see, what's currently in stock at Newegg is priced well above MSRP, the cheapest one being $1,300. With the rest of them hovering around $1,500, and some of these premium cards going for well above that. It's crazy. This is what the 4090 used to go for. So yeah, I mean, the 5080 is looking like a pretty bad value card when compared to other cards. Relatively, the 5070 Ti, like I was saying, can offer you like 85, 90% of the performance that this card is offering, and you could have attained that for like $750, $800, but obviously that's not the case anymore. And I mean, to be fair with the 5080, I did check out that card recently. The one in particular was the MSI Expert model, which I thought, the card itself, like the Expert model itself, was built really well and really elegant looking card. And, I flashed the 450 watt BIOS on it and was able to compare it to a 4090. And, in a lot of games, they were trading blows. So what the takeaway from that was, if you can't get your hands on, and you will not get your hands on a new 4090, but that's the level of performance you're looking for, then your option is to grab a 5080 and then pretty much overclock it balls to the walls. So then looking on ahead in terms of the 50 series, your options are going to be an 8 GB 5060, an 8 GB 5060 Ti, a 12 GB 5070, which Tim was also talking about that card also starting to gradually have some stock issues. And I mean, that makes sense because once the 16 GB cards are out, then that's the next one in line. And then after the 5070 12 GB, which goes for around $550 to $600, then it jumps all the way up to the 5080, which we looked at. Currently cards are going for around $1,300 plus, which is insane. And then obviously the 5090, which is on a totally different planet. Cards going anywhere from like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, which is just insane. It's mind blowing how much money that is for a graphics card. But hey, this whole AI situation, man, it's getting crazy. But you know what? Let's talk about AMD, because AMD is definitely going to be playing a role into this as well. And when you compare a direct competitor to the 5070 Ti, we're looking at the 9070 XT, which has been one of the very popular cards coming out from AMD in quite some time. I did do a review of that card. It was the Sapphire Pure model, which was a really great looking card. It ran really well as well in terms of efficiency and cooling and all of that. It ran pretty well, and it was a nice, cool design from Sapphire, one of the better ones that I've seen from them in a while. But yeah, like when it comes to the 9070 XT, if you're looking for that 5070 Ti levels of performance, and we get to the situation where you just can't pick up a 5070 Ti or one for a reasonable price, then the 9070 XT will probably be your best option. Now, obviously, keep in mind when it comes to features and other advantages that NVIDIA offers, you're not going to get the same ones directly compared to AMD. Now, AMD does have, a better upscaler with FSR Redstone. They have improved their ray tracing performance as well with the 9070 series. And with the recent updates with Redstone, I think they also have a ray reconstruction equivalent with that software stack as well. So I mean, AMD is definitely coming a long way with their features as well. So it's not like you're going to be totally absent on a lot of those NVIDIA features or the equivalent for that as well. And I mean, when we take a look at the 9070 XT and the situation going on with this card, yeah, I mean it's going up in price too, because with 5070 Ti's going up in price and not being available, now the demand is shifting towards the 9070 XT. A lot of people using this card as a substitute. And I mean, keep in mind the MSRP for this card should have been $599, but I hardly saw this card going for $599. I mean, we did see it for a little bit before the whole RAM situation happened. But I felt like the 5070 Ti was more readily available closer to MSRP than this card. But now, I mean, you're looking at, $150, $130, $200 markups, which is, pretty abysmal. I mean, with these cards nearing that 1 year mark, like I said, they really shouldn't be going for this high, but, people need graphics cards. And if you're looking for a good 16 gigabyte option now, this is definitely going to be your next best option. So things really just are not looking good right now. If you're in need of a graphics card, if you were eyeing a 5070 Ti, it's probably a good idea to just go out and get that card now. Same thing goes for the 5060 Ti and even like the 9070 XT or the 9070, because as we saw, prices on those are also going up as well. But if you were looking for a good 16 gigabyte gaming graphics card, yeah, better idea to just go out and get it right now. If you have a bit of remorse later on or something like that, a lot of places offer 15 or 30-day return policies, so you can keep it unopened for a while if you were on the fence. But just to be on the safe side, might as well just go out and get that secured right now. But yeah, this whole situation just sucks right now with the DRAM crisis and the demand for silicon and how it's spilling over into other components for PC gamers like graphics cards. I don't know how much worse it's going to get, when things will be getting better. But you're going to have to just start looking at other alternatives if you can't get, one of these cards readily available. But let me know your thoughts down below, what you're going to be doing. Were you able to pick up a card, or if you're just going to ride out the storm with what you have. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this one. As things come along, I'll keep you guys up to date. But we'll touch base in the next video. Take care.
If you guys found this video to be informative and entertaining, then leave a like. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Be sure to check out the video description for cool links and ways to support the channel, such as using my Amazon affiliate link. And if you're interested in seeing more content like this, then consider subscribing, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.